Hello, everyone. Welcome to the IEEE Technical Committee on Learning Technologies Expert Interview Session. I am Harikrishna Rao. I'm a third-year PhD student in Control Systems at the University of Alberta, Canada.
Hi, everyone. My name is Henry. I'm a third-year PhD student at the School of Computing at the Australian National University.
And we also have Jagrit, who is not right now with us. And he is a fourth-year computer science student at NMIMS India. Today, we are interviewing a game development and AI expert, Jerry Medeiros. He is the Director of Education at CircuitStream. Jerry has more than 10 years of experience using his skills to create games, extra training, and simulations. As a Unity Certified Instructor, he is passionate about teaching and latest emerging technologies. He has a bachelor's degree in game development, a certificate in interaction design, a master's degree in computer science, and an MBA in leadership and innovations. We welcome you to the expert interview session. Thank you, Jerry. Welcome to the interview session.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let's begin with getting to know a bit better. So let's start with how you started your career in the gaming industry and how the things have changed from the past and fast forwarding to today.
All right, perfect. So I started, I think 12 or 13 years ago. So the way I started was basically, I had a couple of friends in college that wanted to become game developers. That was not my, I have never thought about it. I like to play, but I was like, I don't know, as a profession. And we went to a career fair in a university, and they had the computer science program there and a focus in game development. So they were starting a course specifically for game development. And my friends were like, yeah, we need to do this. This is the future. This is pretty cool. And I was not completely sure, but then talking to people that were working in this industry and understanding a little bit more about the field, I decided to try. So the first course I took at university was a game development course. I did some internships, but because at the time, there were not many companies out there in Brazil, where I used to live at the time, I started working for all of them and building some games. I started building games for mobile phones, but back in the day, we didn't have like Android or iOS. People didn't have those phones yet. It was like those flip phones that were very like simple, and building games for them was a lot more complicated than it is today, because you needed to deal with specific memory problems, and distributing the games was super difficult. You needed to go through the career and download them and pay per week. So it was not as accessible as it is today. But yeah, then from there, I started developing games for web, like for Facebook, for Orkut at the time, like a social network that doesn't even exist anymore, a Google social network. And to the second question, like what changed? I think everything changed. The technology changed. We have like better phones. We have like iPhones today. They're better than the computers we have back in the day. So we can have very polished and interesting games for mobile devices. The AR and VR possibilities are endless now. We have the Meta Quest that everyone can have. At the time, we didn't have the hardware. So I think what changed is that everything evolved. We have better phones. We have better consoles. We have better graphics. We have better processing power. So we can do much more than we could do back in the day. And more people have access to the technology too. Like back in the day, well, to have a console, it was very complicated, expensive. You didn't have many options. Now you can have like a Nintendo Switch and carry that everywhere and still play nice games, but you can also have like a PlayStation 5 or something like that. So I think we have access to a lot more possibilities, and even developing is easier. Like when I started, most of the engines they're like, the engines are the software we use to create the games, like Unreal. They were not open to the public. And we had Unity, but it was very incipient, very simple. And you needed a lot more coding and deal with the complexity to build games. fast forward to today, you have like Unreal for free, you have Unity for free, and it's a great tool. You have lots of SDKs and you have lots of templates, you have lots of videos on YouTube on how to develop. So we have access to hardware and also to the information. So I think that's the big transformation. Everything is more accessible.
How did you land in circuit stream? And I would like to know how it is impacting the industry.
Cool, that's a good question. So a couple of years ago, around like 5 years ago, I started working more in the VR industry, a little bit of AR, but mostly VR industry. And back in Brazil, I was basically working with training and simulation. So for construction, oil and gas, mining, creating different types of simulations and training on VR headsets. And Circuit Stream is a very interesting company at the time. They were like a startup. It's still a startup, but it was really small. And what they used to do was the same thing. It was not a 100% an education company. They have two different business units, one creating projects and one teaching people how to develop those projects. And I was looking for opportunities to move here to Canada. So I started looking for companies that do the same thing, but here, and I saw they had like one position open for developers to build AR VR experiences, and I was like, okay, this is super cool. Let me check this company. And it was pretty interesting because I already had teaching experience at the time, as well as a development experience. And it was kind of like a perfect match because they were looking for someone that could do both. And then I joined and I started building projects and also teaching there. And now that this company is most about teaching people, it's more of an educational company now. I grew into leading the technical and the education team, basically. So the way it impacts, it has lots of impact on the community, mainly because we're teaching the next generation of developers. So it's one of the most complete programs that teach people how to develop AR, VR. People go from zero to being fully capable of developing experiences. So we changed many people's life based on they now can get jobs in this industry. They can transition to this industry. We also have lots of free material that we produce. So we have a blog that we publish weekly on tutorial.
Oh, great. That's interesting to know that there is a lot of open source material for students to learn and get know what is the gaming industry, and then get more about and then become a complete professional in this industry. That is great. Thank you. And next, I would like to know about the collaborations with industry. So does Circuit Stream have any collaborations with the industry of the gaming industry? And if yes, what kind of collaborations do you have with them?
Yeah, we collaborate a lot with Meta. We have collaboration with Microsoft, with Shapes XR. They work in different ways. So basically, we have hiring partners, for example, people that they have job opportunities, and then they look into our students and see, oh, this person is doing this kind of project. Let's interview them and potentially hire them. We have that kind of collaboration, but we also create content in partnership with those with those companies. So we create courses together, like teaching their technology. We do webinars for free for people exploring the new things they're launching. They are also advisors on our board. So if we're doing a new course, we want to know like what is interesting that this person knows. So they're always vetting and helping us to craft our curriculum in a way that it's effective, so people learn what the industry is requiring for people to get jobs. We have partnerships with Unity too. So we build content with them, they build content with us. We help people get certifications from Unity too. So we are very close to many different companies in this workspace from different perspectives. So hiring, content creation, innovation, and feedback on technology, things like that.
Okay, go into the field of gaming development. That's pretty a relatively newer field newer and upcoming field. So how is the outreach in this field happening in this part of the world or other part of the world and institutions? Like in other fields, we have conferences, community engagement. Can you share some of these major events in this industry, if there are any?
Yeah, sure. It's relatively new if you compare it to other areas like engineering or medicine or something like that. But it's been there for a couple of years, like 4 years or so. There are a couple of big events out there that people like to attend, and they have different formats. One of them is the E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, which everyone gets excited about. I think it's every June, and every major studio is there talking about their projects, their plans, what they're launching. Cool thing about that conference is that the press is always there, and it goes to the mainstream media. It's not only targeted to game developers, so people end up knowing about it and seeing, oh, this is cool. How does it look like to be a game developer? So I think that's the major conference that impacts people a lot. For people that are already developers or aspiring developers, there is the GDC, the Game Developer Conference. It happens every year too. I think it's November or October. And it's a very interesting conference because there you do have the major studios, but they're not speaking about what you're launching just for press. You have the opportunity to hear the people that develop those games talking about challenges they have, strategies they have, how their studios are organized. So it's a very cool event for people that are getting into this. I like to go to that conference. I learn a lot every year. It's a lot easier to go and a lot cheaper than E3, because for E3 you need to have invitations and it's not as easy, but the GDC is a really, really big event. We also have like local events that happen in different countries. I can speak, for example, about Brazil, where we have the SB Games, which is a major event in Latin America. It's for game developers too. It happens every year. It's in Portuguese because, well, it's local, but there are some local events as well. If we talk specifically about AR, VR, or XR in general, there is the AWE that happens every year in the United States, in Europe, in Asia. It's target for XR. So you have the opportunity to know about hardware updates and also games that are being developed for AR, VR. So yeah, I think there are like major global events. There are also local events. There's the Unite, like if it's specifically about Unity, where they talk about new releases, but they also share success stories, what has been built with Unity. It happens in many different places in the world too. Now, after the pandemic, they started transmitting that or broadcasting that online. So many talks are open, anyone can watch. So yeah, I think there are some things happening globally and locally that are improving the outreach and how people know about game development in general.
Thank you. And just a follow-up question on that. Is the E3 and GDC happening in just US or it's across the world? It changes every year.
No, those are only in the United States, and they always the same play. I don't remember where the E3 happens exactly, but the GDC is in San Francisco, but they're always in the same place. That's a little bit of a barrier. If people are in different places, traveling to the United States is not that easy. But you can, now the GDC last year was hybrid, and the previous year was completely online, but they have the vouch, which is basically, if you cannot go, you can like pay a fee after just to have access to the talks that are recorded. And many things are released on YouTube for free too. So going there is a nice experience because you can meet the community and you can ask people in person. But if you cannot go, there are opportunities to watch what's going on. But those big conferences, unfortunately, they are in the United States only. AWE is the exception. It happens in the United States, but it also has a version that happens in Europe and another one in Asia. And I think they change the places every year.
Thank you. That's great to know. And again, since we know that there are some few main hubs in this gaming development, what needs to be done, according to your opinion, to promote gaming development in other parts of the world?
I think one of the things I have been thinking a lot about is that game development is a very interesting thing for people to learn how to solve problems. And I think we get into it a little bit late. So you go to university, sometimes you get like a computer science degree, and then you start thinking about how to transition to game. And I think there are opportunities to start exposing people to that earlier, maybe like in community college, even in like elementary school to some extent. Of course, aligned to the skills and to the capacity that people have in that age and that specific situation. But I think I would like to see more like summer camps about game development in schools and community colleges, creating game jams and hackathons. There are lots of tools out there that you can use without knowing how to program. But even knowing how to program a little bit is a nice skill. So what I think is missing is bringing that to earlier stages of the educational process, teaching people how to make games when they're still kids or teenagers, and then they're going to get excited and more people are going to have access to it. This we have a project. It's not released. It's still like in the planning phase, but we want to partner with high school or college to bring like summer camps and a couple of activities for people in that level to start exploring game development.
Thank you. And again, regarding the theme, what would be the future course of this field of gaming development? How do you see it developing into?
Yeah, I think it's gonna get more and more interactive. So the technology is improving and the hardware is improving and the graphics is improving too. And what I see, at least in the next few years, is we having a lot more VR interactions, for example. Things that are fully immersive, a lot more social interactions too, like multiplayer, multi-user experiences, which is something that we always try to do and always try to have, but access to internet is still very challenging. If we're not in a major city, in a major hub, not everyone has access to good quality internet. And with the 5G starting now and internet being more accessible, even the Starlink and like all those new initiatives, what I see happening is we having like a reliable, constant connection to the internet anywhere, which is gonna potentialize the multi-user, multi-experience, multi-user, multiplayer experiences in the future. So that's what I see. More people connected in immersive games, but more social. Like it feels like we are in different places now. It feels like everyone is there and you can hang out, socialize and play, and it's gonna feel better because now we always have like hiccups with the internet and it's hard to create an experience that is completely immersive, but I think that's where it's going.
Thank you. And final question in the gaming industry is the challenges. So we talked about the developments, the future. So what are the major challenges the AR VR industries that is yet to be resolved?
Yeah, I think the main challenge is still the access and reach. Like not even now that we have cheaper headsets, like you can buy an Oculus Quest for, I don't know, $500, maybe $400 or $500. It's still now like as adopted as a phone. Like nowadays, everyone has a smartphone, or 90% of the population has a smartphone. I think for AR VR, we still need to make that more accessible. But not only that, there are lots of like ergonomic problems. It's not comfortable. It's big. The battery doesn't last that much. So I think we need to figure out ways of making that more natural as a phone. Now everyone carries a phone and interacts with that, and you have that in your pocket and you don't even notice, you don't even remember. It's part of everyone's life. So I think that's we need to face and figure with VR. AR too, like ergonomics of AR is not good. If you need to hold your phone and see something in AR, you cannot do that for a long time. So probably gonna need to have like a wearable, something that is comfortable. Now the ones that we have are very heavy, very expensive, very limited, like the field of view is narrow, so they don't feel natural. I think the challenge we have is making it comfortable, accessible, and natural for everyone. And I don't think remotely close to that. It's improving steadily. So Meta just announced the new Quest Pro. It feels a lot better than the Quest 2, but I think we still have a long way to make it like accessible and comfortable for everyone.
Got it. Thank you. And I'll now pass on to Henry for asking questions on the teaching side of the gaming industry.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is the second part of interview, which is all about teaching. The first question is about the differences between teaching in the gaming industry versus teaching in university, because I had a look at your bio. You previously also worked as a professor in university in Brazil. So how does it compare to like working in the industry right now as a director of education?
Yeah, I think there are many differences. One of the main differences is if you're teaching for university, there's a lot more regulation. So the industry changes really quickly, and your curriculum doesn't change as quickly because you can't. You need to have approval. And then I look into a couple of computer science programs or game development programs, and they're teaching things that we don't use anymore. So the university, in terms of like the keeping up with the technology, is not as easy. Whereas in a company, well, you can do whatever. So there are bad companies, good companies. It's a problem if you don't have regulation. You have different levels of quality, but you have a little bit more flexibility to change things and to implement things. So this is one of the big differences.
Okay. So the next question is about diversity, because I know Circuit Stream's alumni, they all come from different backgrounds, or they come from different industries. Could you please give us some examples of how does that diversity impact your pedagogy? For example, you may have students with no computer science background at all, or students, for example, come from another industry. How does that impact pedagogy?
Yeah, that's a good question. And diversity is super important in a classroom, because if you have people from different backgrounds, with different walks of life, different cultures from different countries, they're always going to have different perspectives, and it helps open everyone's mind. And we also accept, as you mentioned, people that never tried to do this before, or never built anything, never programmed before. So that impacts the way we build our courses. We make sure that we use analogies. When people are learning how to program, we try to make that, we try to bring that in a way that anyone could understand. So we have our instructional designers that are not programmers, and when they don't understand something, we make sure to change until they can understand it. Because if they can understand, it means that most people would be able to understand that. So there is this side of things. If people are from different backgrounds and they need to learn programming, we make sure that we use the analogies, and we have lots of exercises, lots of extra resources. We also provide one-on-one mentorship. So people that have different needs, they can have different accommodations. And we'll also make sure that the teaching environment is respectful. So if someone some specific thing, we make sure to provide that. We make sure that everyone can speak, that every question is answered, and we value every single question, so we can foster this environment where people are not afraid of ask. So I think it all boils down to respect. We respect every single student, and we care about their backgrounds. We want to learn about them. We want to make sure that they are comfortable in the classroom, and we also make sure that everyone can learn what we are teaching, that we're not just using technical language, that we're not using like jargons that they never saw before. So it's a lot of work. It's something that we're always improving. It's never perfect, but the more we have diverse students, the more we strengthen that skill of making sure we have a respectful environment.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is about feedback. Do you often collect feedback from students? If yes, what kind of feedback do you normally collect? Could you please give us some examples of how do you use the collective feedback to further improve your teaching?
Yeah, sure. We collect feedback all the time in various different ways. So we have some surveys that we send every week where we ask a couple of things. For example, if the pace of the class, like is it too fast, too slow, or is it appropriate? So because we have lots of students, those kind of things we look into from the statistics perspective. So if most of the class is saying it's too fast, we're gonna, for that specific instructor, that specific class, the instructor is going to look into that feedback and say, oh, okay, so I need to slow down a little bit. So we also ask if it's too difficult, too easy, or okay, because things need to be difficult. They are difficult, they're challenging, but we don't want it to be extremely difficult. So we want to make sure that people feel comfortable. So we collect feedback in the term of a survey where we can look into specific metrics and then act upon that. But we also collect feedback that is open. So people can write and say, this, I don't like this, this and that because of those reasons, or I really like this, we should do more of that. So we are constantly analyzing the metrics, but also what people are saying about the courses and working with the instructors to adjust to course correct when needed. And by the end, we also collect a couple of the perspective of the learners that finish the course, if it met their expectation, and if not, why not? So we can understand after the end of the course if people are being successful, if they're reaching their goals, and if not, we can understand why and act upon that too. So yeah, we collect feedback all the time because that's what makes our courses better and our teaching practice better too.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is about the challenges. What are the significant challenges in teaching game development, and what are the areas of improvement?
I think the main challenge, at least from my perspective, is that learning game development is really frustrating. It's really hard. Like people don't imagine how hard it is because it's very multidisciplinary. You need to know a lot. Like you need to know a little bit of math. You need to know programming. Extremely hard. You need to know how to deal with assets 3D. We need to know how to collaborate, how to optimize performance. So it's a lot. And people usually get overwhelmed and frustrated with that. And what I think that could improve is what we're trying to do here, like having a community that supports each other. So people know that they're not learning alone. So I think what can improve is making learning more collaborative and more interactive, not only like one person in their room studying for hours, but also having like a network of support. It's something that we try to do, because then if you're struggling with something, you can talk to your colleague and say, hey, I'm struggling too, so let's fix that together. Let's learn that together. And then they can move on. So that's what I've been seeing as the main challenge to teach game development.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's the end of this part. I'll hand over to Harry for the last section. Thank you.
Students, are there any funding opportunities for the students, or do you think that there is a need for funding from the gaming industry for the development or creation of the next generation of game developers?
Yeah, I think so. I think that having like scholarships and funding opportunities is really important because not everyone has access, not everyone has the resources, and it's not cheap. Like if you need to pay for a course and pay for the hardware and all that, it kind of limits who can join into this. So there are a couple of initiatives, ones that I can think of right now. The Entertainment Software Association, I know that they have scholarship for game development students. There is the GDA Foundation. They do have some scholarships. I know that the government of Canada, like some provinces, have a couple of scholarships for people that are unemployed that they can use towards education. So I think probably many countries, locations, universities are going to have funds. But there's those institutions too, like the Entertainment Software Association, IGDA. Here at Circuit Stream, we do have some scholarships. So we have
We'd like to thank you again for your time and sharing this insights on game development and teaching. Thank you, Jerry.